Hey, good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome into the Volquest Mailbag Podcast. I'm Eric Kane alongside Austin Price and Brent Hubbs. A lot of questions to get into here today. Appreciate you guys submitting those. We do it every single Thursday right here on Volquest.com. General's Quarters, a lot going on right now. Basketball, Lady Vols, baseball, football spring practice coming up here in less than 2 weeks. So no better place to get dialed into all the action than right here at Volquest.com. We will start with Vols Forever 901. Why did the former strength staff, led by Kurt Schmidt, allow players to have fried food and sugary drinks as part of their diet?
Well, I mean, a couple of things there. And I'm not saying that the sugar stuff's not a big deal. They drank Gatorade, which a lot of people do. A lot of programs drink Gatorade. They drink now a different Gatorade. It's Propel and it's G2 and it's zero sugar and all of that kind of stuff. They did not eat fried foods every day at the training table, but they had it on a Friday. Every few weeks they would have like a fried fish deal. And it's just, Austin, it's a holistic approach. I mean, you're the one who spent time with Derek Owens. I mean, he's taking a more holistic approach to strength and conditioning, which includes his nutrition, because at the end of the day, he's as much the nutritionist as anybody is in this program.
No doubt. And, obviously he was big in bringing Katie O'Connor on, but I mean, she reports to him and he's the one calling the shots on this stuff. I mean, when we were sitting there and he told that story and said, I told her and, the training staff, when we get out of this team meeting, I want all the full sugar Gatorades gone. And I'm going zero sugar. And then I was like, man, I love Powerade Zero. And I do. Like, I drink it here at the house. And, it's I was, patting myself on the back talking about drinking Powerade Zero. And then he goes, well, problem with Powerade Zero is it's high fructose corn syrup. And I'm like, well, great. I was patting myself on the back. And then you decided to, punch me in the stomach. So, I mean, like he's a firm believer in the stuff because he's seen it firsthand, right? When he got to Indiana, he did the same thing. And look at the amount of games they won. I mean, did they win them because they switched to G2s? No, but it's a small part of the process, right? It's a small part in being better, in better shape, better conditioned, trimming off the little body fat that a lot of these kids do have is because they don't eat pork. Here's the one thing he can't control, and no strength or nutritionist can, is what do the kids do when they're out of the building, right? Like when they go home, are they rolling through and getting 16 chicken fingers and taking them back to the house to share with a couple of their buddies? I mean, he can only control what's in the building, but I mean, he's got his finger firmly on that, whether it be fried foods, what they eat, or the sugar drinks or any of that stuff.
Yeah, and I think, and again, I think the difference between Derek Owens and Kurt Schmidt is Derek Owens has spent an extensive amount of time on the nutritional side of strength and conditioning. I don't think that, I mean, Kurt Schmidt said, we have a nutritionist, I'm a strength coach. He didn't play in that sandbox, so to speak, whereas Derek Owens considers the nutrition part of it very much strength and conditioning training as a part of his program.
I went to my first basketball game in several years. It was the LSU game, and was somewhat surprised by all the entertainment before and during the game. Is it like this at other SEC arenas? Which road venues are the best to experience?
Yeah, I mean, everywhere, whether you're in football, whether you're in basketball, even baseball or whatever. I mean, it's the whole, how do you entertain between action? But whether it's pregame before everything gets started, whether it's halftime, whether it's during a timeout, how do you entertain? The idea is to try to create an engaging, entertaining experience for the fans the entire time that they are there. At times does it feel like, or can it feel like it's over the top? From my old man, get off my lawn viewpoint, yeah, I mean, it does. Like, I'm not a fan of 107 decibels music before the team comes out for basketball warm-up. But I'm 51. It doesn't do a whole lot for me. I'm not mad. I'm not boycotting it. I'm not like, I'll never go there, that type deal. But this is the trend, and this is what marketing people do for events is they try to create entertainment and don't just have everybody sit there waiting for something to happen. They create as much entertainment during dead balls, stoppages, pregame, halftime, postgame as they can.
Yeah, for baseball, I mean, there's something in between every inning, every half inning. They're playing a game or they're doing something on the Jumbotron. It's always in fan engagement. I've been doing that at Tennessee for years. I mean, I've gone to several, ballparks for weekends throughout the series. I remember Alabama last year. I think I may have mentioned this to somebody. I was like, Alabama does a really good job with their in-game entertainment, for the baseball series. It's just how it is everywhere. Plus, the baseball is such a long game, and you're there at the ballpark for 3 hours at minimum. Like you probably need a lot of that stuff. So yeah, it's everywhere, and it's in every sport. It feels like.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Alabama, Austin, was probably the first to really get things going in a different direction or a more advanced direction in football. They were the first ones with the light show. Remember when they did light shows, and there was a lot of people saying it was an unfair advantage or you shouldn't be doing this. The league's got to put in rules against this. They were the first ones that were doing those types of things that everybody does now.
Yeah, am I crazy to think that when they first got them, right? Bama, Georgia, some of those schools. I mean, it was like, you're being in a club. And I feel like they don't use them as much as they did at first. I think everybody was like, okay, this is cool. We'll use it a little bit. But like that first game we went down there, it was a night game.
Every time out, every stoppage is in play.
Every time of anything, And
it was like, we got a new toy. We're going to use it all the time.
And I just don't feel like they're doing it as much. All schools. Again, they use it more. It's more tasteful. Before, it was just obnoxiously ridiculous. And so I feel like all schools have kind of gotten, better with that. But yeah, I mean, listen, people get bored at games. And so I think it's just been, and listen, they've been doing that at basketball games for years in terms of like having somebody come out there on a cyclist or juggling and all that stuff at halftime, or dogs that come in and jump through rings and those type of things. So it's about the entertainment value, and it's also, when you take kids to games, it's something to keep them distracted, so they don't want to have to go to the concession stand for the 43rd time, like my youngest does.
Do you think Heupel would ever go away from the wide split formations? The changes last year and the condensed formations really seem to help and be a positive, but he's also spent years crafting around those wide splits and has a deep down belief in that approach. Just seems hard to imagine he would completely abandon it. We saw last year that he's willing to sacrifice some of it and can probably expect even more of it this year, but could it ever get to the point to where he's in more traditional formations becoming the norm for Josh Heupel and his teams?
I think you want to be as multiple as you can be. And I think you're seeing that. I mean, think about it. And part of it's personnel, but we didn't see 2 tight end sets, in 22 and 23. They evolved in 24 and 25. I think the more things you can run, the more formations you can show, the more you can run the same thing out of different looks, the better it helps you. I mean, I wonder and we saw a little bit of it this past year, but I wonder if we see more motions and shifts moving forward in this offense. If that's the next step in the evolution, because everybody has tried to counter what was their strength for many years, which was tempo. They've got these rules in place, Eric, to slow teams down, to make it harder to play at tempo. So how do you counter that? What do you come up with? You're trying to get the defense to guess, to misalign. You're trying to get them to move and show things. And I think, you can get them to misalign when you're playing super fast. But if you can't play super fast within the rules as much as you once could, what's your counter move to defenses just standing there, when you're stationary? I think you're going to see continued movement and continued different formations running the same stuff.
I'll tell you the one play that I'd love to – and next time I'm around Halsley, I may ask him. The one play I'd love to know, have you run this play since 22 and we just didn't notice it? Was you go back to the Missouri game in 22 when Jalen Hyatt was kind of hidden behind like the left tackle, left guard area and kind of slipped out and was just wide open. Now, he was wide open a lot that season. There's that one play, if you remember. Like, I thought that was a great design. I'd like to know if they've ran anything like that since then. We just didn't, you just didn't see it, or they had it covered up better that time around, because that play was just so successful to me. I'd love to just know if they've done it since then.
Yeah, I mean, like in terms of like running the football, you're still running the same play out of your base 11 that you'd be in with 12 personnel. It's just you're going about blocking it differently. Up front, there's a few tags that are differently, but it's all about putting stress on the defense. I mean, as a defender, you're keyed on, like, say you're a star player, say you're a backer or a safety. I mean, typically you're, 2 to 3. You count from the outside, corners got 1, slots 2, tight end, running backs 3 or whatever. Spacing spreads them out. That's why Josh Heupel loves the wide splits. But also if you send somebody in motion, it declares like that guy is in man coverage. He's following your guy or he's passing him off and they're switching responsibilities. Motion does a great job of declaring who's got who on defense. And that's why I love motion because, I mean, again, it's easy for the quarterback to say, okay, so they're in one high man. Let's roll. I would love to see more motion and all that. But, I mean, in your sit down with Josh Heupel in your story that you published a couple of days ago, he said that they were probably more diverse in the route tree than they had been in the last 10 years. But they're still going about it and accomplishing a lot of the same things. And so, yeah, I mean, I think the moves last year were good. I'm excited to see if there's any more tweaks and kind of how they evolve off that. But you can't do the same stuff. Again, the stat about, throwing outside the numbers and it was digs. And I mean, it was just so, I mean, you just sit there and watch it in 23 and 24 and you're like, oh my God, like do something different. And they did. And they're still throwing to the outside at points and times, but they're also attacking the middle of the field a whole lot more. And again, personnel's a lot of it too. I mean, Joey Aguilar was significantly better at throwing the football in this system for 1 year than Nico was, or even Joe was. What could George or Faison do? I don't know. We'll see. But it was different. It was good. But at the end of the day, they were still accomplishing a lot of the same things, just going about it at a different way.
Well, to your point, I mean, now instead of throwing the comeback outside the numbers, which was a long throw, maybe they're in a condensed formation and they're throwing to the same area of the field, but it's on an out pattern.
It's an out from a bunch. Yeah.
It's a different look that way. I mean, the thing about football is you're trying offensively, you're trying to stress the defense. You're trying to confuse the defense and what's coming. And conversely, defenses are trying to confuse young quarterbacks or quarterbacks in general as to what's coming so that the coach can't predetermine everything for them. So that's why you see the third safety. Is he in the box? Is he out of the box? The overhang linebacker, what is he doing? You're trying to create some deception pre-snap so that forces the quarterback to read the field, as opposed to the coach telling the quarterback in the headset with 15 to 20 seconds on the play clock, hey, you got the slot receiver on the out cut here because they're in this formation. So you're because of the communication stuff going on, you're trying to play more deceptive games than probably you played in a long time. And who can win that deceptive game creates more explosive plays for offenses, or it creates more negative plays for defenses.
Yeah, and how they evolved, and they had some tweaks, and they went back and did some things last year, and then now adding Jim Knowles a part of that mix and using Jim Knowles as a resource. I mean, I think Jim Knowles can help a lot with that on offense as well, and how to beat some of those looks that Tennessee struggled with, and obviously Ohio State in 2024 comes to mind. Against major competition, the Vols are 7-7 when Jaylen Carey plays more than 20 minutes and are now 8-2 after the other night when he plays less than 20 minutes. Would you trust him to play more than 15-ish minutes in a win-or-go-home game against a good team?
Well, this is a little bit of a deceiving stat. And you guys know I love stats, but stats can be manipulated a little bit too. So you had 4 games where you didn't have JP Estrella available to play, or Felix Ekpara. Between the two of them, they missed 4 of those games that he's talking about, 20 minutes or more. You had another 2 games where Ekpara was in foul trouble early that limited his count, that forced more minutes on Carey as well. And then you had that early season run where the head coach just didn't have any belief in JP Estrella. I mean, you played 45 minutes, I guess it was, or I don't know however many minutes you played, I guess 50 minutes in a double overtime game against A&M, and Estrella played 9 minutes in that game. That tells you where the head coach's confidence was at JP Estrella at that point. The reality is, if Felix Ekpara stays out of foul trouble, if JP Estrella is dialed in, ready to play, you're probably going to see Jaylen Carey less. You probably won't see him a bunch of minutes. But if you have foul trouble, or if Estrella's not rebounding or not doing those things, then you may see more of a rotation. But that's a little bit misleading, because there were some games that Carey was forced to play more minutes because Tennessee had some limitations in the post with some injury and guys in foul trouble.
Give us 3 reasons why Josh Heupel will win a national championship at UT in the next 5 years. Give us 3 reasons why Josh Heupel isn't the guy to win a big one at Tennessee. Austin, you take this one.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate that. Reasons, offensive continuity, his ability to, it seems, to adapt, and go out and make the changes necessary to take the next step. And it just being there's just a lot more parity now than there ever has been. Look at Ole Miss making it all the way to the semis. Miami hadn't been and sniffed a championship game in near 25 years, and there they were playing for it all. Indiana, all those reasons to help back up, there just being a better chance to get there than there was 5-6 years ago, when there was like literally 5-6 teams max that could potentially get there, and maybe not even that many. And reasons not, you get too undisciplined, too many penalties cost you in a big ball game. The ability to win on the road at times, which is difficult no matter how good you are. And then, I don't know. I don't know what the third one was.
I think one of the big ones would have been prior to this offseason, but he's kind of checked that box now, his inability to move on or make tough decisions or whatever. But he's done that this offseason. Yeah. So, I don't think that falls into that category. But I think it would have before. A prominent national college basketball podcast or college football podcast says adamant collective bargaining isn't illogical because the players will never agree to it. What rules would you put in place to curb unlimited transfer and all that chaos?
I don't know. I just think the problem is the courts got involved, right? If you went back, Hubs, and just said you get one time, you get the one do-over and that's it. After that, it's the old set of rules where you have to either win an appeal or whatever, because mom's sick and you're trying to get closer to home, or you have to sit out a year. I think it would really slow down and curtail a lot of this. The money, the players aren't incentivized. Why would you want collective bargaining if you were them? But are they going to unionize? Are they going to strike? Because ultimately that would take down the sport, much like it killed baseball until they started steroid juicing and got that summer of '98. So I think there's some different ways to look at this.
I don't know why any player would ever agree to collective bargaining and capping what they can make. The only way you would do that is if suddenly you thought the money was going to dry up, and you needed to get some kind of cap deal in there. But as long as it's the Wild West and people are going to be paying what they're paying, why would you? I think that's the hard part, to go there. I don't disagree with that. And Danny White said this on Wednesday morning when he was on the Sports Animal, was asked about it. He's like, listen, I'm all for players making some money, because we just don't have any parameters on anything at this point. And, you need some organization for it. Why does the player feel like there needs to be any organization right now to it? They're getting the good players are getting essentially everything they want. Now maybe some other players are not getting it, but it doesn't matter what's happening with those players. And that's not to be crass or cruel, but it's about what the big name people are making. The unlimited transfer thing, I hate it. You're never going to win that court battle. Once you allow that toothpaste out of the tube, I don't know how you ever cram that one back in the tube. And I think if you could find a way to do that, it would help the financial side as much as anything would. But what judge is going to rule against a player having the ability to move from one school to another school? What judge is going to look at that and say, hey, we need to limit player movement? Now, you can you got to have buyouts. You can do multi-year contracts, and you got to have buyouts, and maybe that grows to try to curtail it a little bit. But I don't think you're going to win in the court of law with a judge who says, I'm blocking a player from being able to go move and do whatever he wants to do when everybody else in the free world, for the most part, can move around to different jobs whenever they want to. Non-competes aren't really that big of a deal, you know?
Home Field Apparel is the exclusive apparel sponsor of Volquest.com. Basketball season just about over, right? March Madness coming up, but we got spring sports happening. Sherry Parker Lee Stadium, what's up? Number 1 ranked softball team, Tennessee baseball at the newly renovated Lindsey Nelson Stadium. It's a little chilly right now, but here in East Tennessee, it could be 75 tomorrow. So if you want to be decked out in style at the ballpark this spring, I encourage you to go check out homefieldapparel.com. Vintage college designs, vintage Tennessee designs. If you're watching on YouTube, you see some of it right there. You've got the interlocking UT sweatshirt. You've got like these old, bomber jackets looking like they came out straight from the 90s. Flat belt Tennessee corduroy hats. They've got a Smoky selection. They've got old school Tennessee baseball hat selection. They've got a Lady Vols selection. They got Proud of the Southland marching band. Again, Home Field is about nostalgia, right? Vintage college feels, and who doesn't love the old school Tennessee logos and all that. I've got a couple of things from Home Field Apparel. The 98 National Championship. I got a T-shirt there. I've got a hoodie that's got a big old Tennessee football helmet on the back and interlocking UT on the front. You've got back-to-back SEC championship T-shirts from 97 and 98 as well. So comfortable. They look great. They're going to keep you warm. And again, whenever the temperature rises up as well, they've got a great short sleeve and short selection as well. Vintage college designs. Go check it out at homefieldapparel.com today. That is homefieldapparel.com, homefieldapparel.com. With the offensive line that we're bringing back, do you think DeSean Bishop puts the Tennessee rushing yards record in jeopardy? He's about 1,500 yards away, and he's currently averaging 6 yards per carry.
I don't think he can get there next year because that means he would have broken the single season and the career mark on the same year. But he technically has 2 years of eligibility left. So can he get close enough to where he's incentivized to come back, for the final year to potentially become Tennessee's all-time leading rusher? I think that's possible. I think he's aware that, it's doable. You're right. He's over 1,500 yards for his career, which puts him about 1,500 yards away from the all-time mark. That has had a chance to be broken multiple times. Arian Foster kind of went, with a kind of a lull senior year that didn't get to the finish line. Jalen Hurd was well on track in 2.5 years, Hubs, to break it, and then decided to quit and go be a receiver at Baylor. So every time somebody's kind of started to make a move on it, it's just not happened. But yeah, it's very possible if he were to stick around for both years of eligibility.
I think one of the reporters either after the LSU game or Vandy game asked Kim Caldwell this question, but how in the world do the Lady Vols keep getting absolutely killed in the third quarter? In her answer, Kim basically said that she didn't know how to fix it. So I'm curious what you guys think about this dropping the ball after halftime. It's like they just fall apart.
It's been a trend, unfortunately, for them for the last 2 years. She talked about it last year. Her halftime speeches didn't seem to resonate, and her team did not come out with the same energy they needed to start the second half. And certainly that's been the case this year in some games when you look at Connecticut and Texas and LSU and some things like that. So I don't know. I mean, that's what she gets paid to figure out. I don't know that she said. I think she said, if I had an answer to that, we wouldn't be dealing with this problem. I don't think she said, I don't know what I'm doing or I can't fix it. I think she was frustrated in saying, it's a great question that I don't have an answer to because we continually do it over and over. Regardless of how you say it, the fact of the matter is her team has to come out playing better with more energy, with more effort and more focus to start the second half. And I think all coaches deal with this. And I think part of it's maturity with your locker room. I think Rick Barnes deals with it. Right? South Carolina came out Tuesday night and made their first 4 shots and cut a 12-point lead to 6, in just a couple of minutes. Guys have to, you have to come out and be ready to play, and coaches have to push the right buttons there. And it's always a challenge because every team is different. But certainly for 2 seasons, Kim Caldwell's team has not played well enough in the third quarter to give them enough big-time wins. They've had opportunities, but they just haven't played well enough in the third quarter.
I mean, they literally have either been tied or had the lead at Connecticut, at LSU, home against Texas,
At Oklahoma.
I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not that they've been down 6 or 8 points. They've either been tied or had the lead. And none of those games outside of Texas was close in the end. Like, that's the crazy part. Like, okay, you lose to Texas by 2, Brent. That's just one of those things where they beat you by 2 points in the second half or whatever. That's basketball. It's sports. But to be tied at the half at UConn and lose by 30, when the line, I think, was 28.5, like, that's crazy.
When Jim Knowles is in a 4-3 front, who are the 3 linebackers to start? How about a 3-4? Who are the 4 linebackers to start? It's got to be Carter and Campbell for 2 of them, regardless of the formation. That leaves Spillman, Perlotti, Harmon, Thielander, Bolton to choose from. The available spots, and one of those talented freshmen just exploded on the scene. In my opinion, Perlotti and Spillman went in 3-4. Spillman, but in 4-3, is it Spillman or Perlotti? Brent, I don't. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. There's a lot about the Jim Knowles defense that I'm intrigued to watch and learn more about, obviously. But I don't think there's ever going to be 4 linebacker bodies on the field at the same time.
I mean, I don't think so. But
unless it's a short yardage package, goal line, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, but there may be. You never know what this thing may be. I mean, and again, I think JaHarris is asking a good question here, and I'm not trying to be callous and saying I don't know, but I don't know. The others, I mean, like. We've heard about Harmon for a year, right? I mean, William Inge came out after the Georgia game. I should have played him more. So we're thinking, all right, look for more Jaden Harmon this week. The guy played less than he did the first 3 games. So, I mean, I don't know. Jaden Harmon's
reverse.
Jaden Harmon's had a good offseason. What does that translate to on the football field? I don't know. We'll see. We know Aaron Carter's not going to go through spring, but he's played a bunch of snaps. He's going to play. We know Campbell's going to factor because he knows the defense. Outside of that, how all this looks, how many they have on the field and all those things, Austin, I mean, they may have Jaden Perlotti lining up at defensive end for all I know in a game. Anything can happen with the different – Jim Knowles observed – and I'm rambling here, Austin, but Jim Knowles observed in December. And what he was observing was athletic ability, bend, much like you would do watching high school tape or transfer portal tape. Now he gets to take those things and create his defense for year 1 out of that with some pieces that probably aren't the most logical fits for what he wants to do long term, but he's going to make it work with the pieces that he has to deal with.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. I do think that there's a real chance because Tennessee's not super deep at Leo, right? I mean, you have, Chaz Coleman, who, again, is still a very young pup at that position. You have Christian Gass, who, basically redshirted last year. You have Kendra Golston, who's a true freshman, who's had a nice, wintertime workout session. But, I mean, what's he going to be like when he gets to the field? So do they use even guys like Arion Carter or Jaden Perlotti as pass rushers in this defense? Do you see that? Or those guys that are really freaky athletically and have some speed to them work in those ways? So, to Brent's point, you could see some different type things with what Jim Knowles wants to do because he does have more depth at the linebacker. And let's face it, Perlotti, I mean, just body type wise, he looks more like an edge guy than he does necessarily a linebacker.
Right. He was a nickel guy in the bowl game, Eric.
Yeah. I mean, I guess in that situation, if that's where they're playing, then I'm looking at them as a defensive lineman now. I get this kind of where my brain's
not only they're playing there. I'm just saying, does he have a package where they work in that way?
Yeah, I mean,
and in this scenario, is Jordan Norman on the other side? You did mention him.
Yeah, and he's another one, right? I think he can kind of flex between strong side defensive end and the Leo spot.
Yeah, good. You want more players that kind of force your hand. Elander talks about that with baseball all the time. Kind of figuring out a way to get them on the field, or who fits in best where. Just a lot of questions that we don't have the answer to. But again, I'm just excited to watch it all. It's not going to come together in spring, but we're really going to see some of it. If you could handpick the 1 and 2 seeds for the Vols get paired with in the tournaments, who would it be and why? The top 8 to 10 teams this year seem loaded compared to the years past.
I don't know if they seem more loaded compared to years past. I think there may be a greater separation than what we've seen in the past, right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's a bigger drop off after 8. I don't know that means the 8 are necessarily the deepest 8 we've seen or anything like that. But I mean, all of them are going to be hard to play that you play against. I mean, you beat Houston, right? They would be a 2 seed. Illinois had their way with you. I've not watched enough of Arizona to know. I don't think you want Florida. Michigan will be a challenge. Michigan State, I don't think that's a bad 2 seed probably for you. But if you're playing a 1 or a 2 seed in any given year, they're not going to be layups unless you get to that point and somebody's upset somebody. So if you can get to the point where you're playing a 1 or a 2 seed, then you're making noise, and anything can happen in any 40 minutes. I mean, I think someone who can match Tennessee's size and physicality in the post, Austin, gives Tennessee trouble. If they have a physicality advantage, meaning if they're playing a team that's more spread out and plays a little bit more on the perimeter, it's probably a bit more of an advantage to Tennessee.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I wouldn't want to play Michigan or Duke. And the thing is like the likelihood is they're probably going to be a 4 or 5 depending on how well they do between here and the house. And could they fall to a 6? Maybe if they lose to Vandy and then get bounced, first round of the SEC tournament, or not first round, but you know what I mean, first game of the SEC tournament for them. That would put you down there with the 2s instead of the 1s. If you're a 4 or 5, you're going to be playing a 1 seed in theory if it goes chalk, right? In the Sweet 16. So I would not want to play Duke. I would not want to play Michigan. Outside of that, I'd be fine playing Arizona. I'd be fine playing Florida again. You only played them once this year, but there's some familiarity there, which to me is better than the unknown, so to speak. He played Duke early in the year in that preseason game, but I still wouldn't want to play Duke or Michigan.
How does Cade Phillips factor into the basketball lineup going into next year? Things can change with the portal, but assuming Estrella, Brown, Carey return, maybe another rim protector from the portal, do you see him returning for a limited role, or is he likely a portal entry?
I think Tennessee certainly wants him back, and I think his role would be more than limited. I think if he were healthy, he would be playing a lot, for Tennessee right now. I think the interesting thing is where's Tennessee with Jaylen Carey for another year? Obviously, Dwayne Brown has done well. Estrella has a hard time staying healthy. When he's healthy, he's been pretty good. They're certainly wanting more physicality out of him. I mean, I think Cade Phillips, even though some people view him as undersized in some ways, I think he plays with the edge that Rick Barnes is looking for and likes. So if I'm Rick Barnes, I want to make sure Cade Phillips is back because I've got a big role for Cade Phillips. I don't have a limited role or a small role. I think Cade Phillips can do a lot of things for Tennessee. I mean, I just go back to, he lined up against, Tyus Etney or whatever the guy's name is, the big guy. Not Tyus Etney, that was a little guy. What's the big guy's name from Purdue? Anyway, the 7-footer that's at Memphis now. And he was not afraid as a freshman.
Zach Edey.
Yeah, there you go. I get my names confused, AP. I'm old. But he wasn't scared. He wasn't afraid at that point. And he battled his rear end off against him. I think he's a competitor. I'd love to have him in my program. And I think Rick Barnes would love to keep him in his program. I'm sure some other schools out there are probably interested in Cade Phillips. I would say some people are probably calling him with the same question, going, hey, do you want to be back? Look at what they've got and everything else. You come here and you can be the guy. Tennessee will have to have a plan for getting Cade Phillips back, but I would think they would want him back for sure.
Are there any behind-the-scenes benefits for Tennessee players or high schools that have certain company gear affiliations, like Baylor and Chattanooga signing with Adidas?
I mean, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah,
it just doesn't hurt.
Does it make it a lock? I would definitely tell you it helps, right? It doesn't mean it's a lock. We'll see what happens. I think DGG will have an opportunity to do, some bigger stuff with Adidas if he chooses to do that. And, much like Tristan Keys did, much like other, high profile players have done, but it doesn't make him a lock to Tennessee. But as Hub said, it sure doesn't hurt. I would tell you it probably helps. And again, there's some. Now I'm not talking about Peyton Manning. Okay, everybody loves to say, "Oh, it's Peyton." It's not Peyton. There's enough orange around Baylor and you got players that he knows he's very comfortable with. A couple of his closest buddies are Jamie and Theodore, Gabe Osinda. Where are they going to be playing? I think all that stuff plays in Tennessee's favor. And anybody that doesn't think that it does, I think would be wrong there. Again, Ohio State's definitely a factor there. I think, he likes Ohio State a good amount, but I would tell you I still like Tennessee where they're at right now as of March 5th.
If Joey was injured during the bowl game, why didn't G-Mac get some run?
It's a great question. And he was injured before the bowl game. He was playing with that shoulder deal before the bowl game. I don't have an answer for that one. I'll defer to AP if he's got an answer, but I don't have an answer to that question.
No, I mean, that's coaches. I mean, the coaches make those decisions. I mean, like, why did George not play? And why was he not the number 2? Down the stretch over Merklinger when they knew Merklinger wasn't going to be back. Again, there are sometimes the coaches in all sports make decisions that leave us all kind of scratching their heads. And that one, when you knew Merklinger wasn't going to be back, to me, it doesn't make any sense for him to be running as the number 2 at that point. And, I think if they had to do over again, they don't. But if they had to do over again, I think they'd probably have flipped that. Wouldn't you have?
I mean, I would think so. I mean, you would, knowing where you're at now in the competition, you would like to know how far George has come between the last time you saw him really play. So,
also, it might be telling as well. George just wasn't ready to go play in that game. Maybe. I mean, if you're playing an injured quarterback, thinking he's going to give yourself the best chance to win, I mean, obviously they didn't believe that George was ready at that time. So I don't know. I mean, that's certainly a way of looking at it for sure.
Well, I mean, if you're George, the last 8 or 9 weeks have been an emotional roller coaster for you, or a mental roller coaster for you. Here's Joey Aguilar comes back to play in a bowl game, and then all of a sudden they're bringing in Sam Levitt on a visit, and there's the Sorsby stuff out there, and then you think it's going to be you because they don't go get anybody in the portal that was a big name guy, and then all of a sudden Joey's back in a lawsuit that most people assumed he was going to win, and all of those types of things. Now it's all behind him. Now it's him, and he knows exactly what the room looks like now, and nobody else is jumping into this room out of the blue, and he's got to go win it, and he's going to have competition to go win it because it's going to be a true competition. Because Faison Brandon will have a say. We'll see what Ryan Staub does, but I think it's a 2-horse race at this point. Everybody's going to assume George, but George has got to go win it. And I think getting all of that out of the way for George before you get into spring practice is a big deal for him to focus the right way and not have any distractions, as opposed to if you're in the middle of spring and you go, Joey Aguilar's got a court date on Thursday, where's your mind at if you're George McIntyre? Now you got it all out of the way so you know.
The last 3 national champs in football were Big Ten teams that played 9 Power 5 games instead of 10 like the SEC is going to do. Are the positives of gate revenue for that extra big game going to be worth the benefits of an easier schedule, though one more bye week or a better record at the end of the season? Did the SEC hurt themselves too much? Long story short, did Greg Sankey get played?
I think where the play came in was the belief that the playoffs were going to be expanded. I think that's where the play came in. I think the selling point to people in the SEC, coaches and ADs and other decision makers was, we go into this extra conference game. It's good for revenue, and you're going to expand the playoffs. So it's going to be, quote, easier to get into playoffs or more availability to get into playoffs. Now you've done your expansion. You're playing harder games. You're playing more teams, and you got one less bye week and all those things, and you don't have any more teams going into the playoff. And that's the byproduct that's not good for the SEC. As for the Big Ten winning the last 3 championships, I don't know that it's so much about the schedule, Austin, but I think that the shift in the Big Ten is they've just become a more athletic conference, and they didn't lose their power in the process. They were always a power team, right? You're always like, hey, we wanted to, they're a slow plotting. They're still a strong team, but they've gotten more athletic through the years at skill spots, in particular on defense, than what they were 10 years ago when everybody was saying, this conference is vastly superior. I think you got to credit the Big Ten for their adapting to the athletic ability and playing a more SEC style of football, if you will, at least for the upper tier teams in that league.
More athletic and then also more mature, right? I mean, it's been a combination. That Michigan team was a mature team. with veterans who had played 2 to 3 years in the system.
Good point.
Indiana, they're old as dirt.
So was Ohio State. So was Ohio State a year ago, particularly on defense. That was an old team.
Yeah,
so,
and
good point.
It matters. I mean, it does. It does matter. It's why Tennessee fans wanted Joey back. It's why having an older player at quarterback was a thing. It is continues and will be a thing. Doesn't mean that you can't have a really good young quarterback. Look at Ohio State themselves. Joey and Sam was fantastic as a redshirt freshman. It's not to say you can't have a really good young quarterback. It just when you've got a little bit more irons in the fire, it makes things just a little bit easier. But specifically when you have a group of guys that have done it and played, that's why I think Tennessee's defense could be potentially much improved this year. Not just because of the Jim Knowles scheme and all that, but because you have T.J. Metcalf and you have Quay Moss and you have some of these players that have played a lot of football. The question is where are they at with like Leo? And that's a very inexperienced position. Some of those other spots on defense. But, I mean, they're pretty experienced in some key spots on the defensive side.
During the Tony Vitello era, the approach at the plate was to be patient, work pitchers, and make them make mistakes. Why does it feel like that's changed since Josh has taken over? It feels like we're doing a lot of free swinging, trying to hit home runs, less working the count, putting pressure on opposing pitchers. I'm not making fun of the question whatsoever, but I've heard the whole they're trying to hit home runs for 8 straight years. Tennessee, they're not working out. So like when things aren't going well, it's always they just care about the home runs or nothing. I mean, they've added Chuck Drolleman into the fold. He's a great hitting mind and did that at Florida for years. But Josh Elander's been your hitting coach the entire time. He was your hitting coach when Tony was here. He's the head coach now. He's still your hitting coach. The approach hasn't changed. It's not been good. You have before Tuesday's midweek, you had a 268 batting average, and that is not good. I mean, that's not good in SEC play, much less not in SEC play. So it's got to get better. I think a lot of guys are pressing. I think a lot of guys are anxious, and there's constant competition. You're trying to stay in the lineup, and you get a little happy sometimes. I mean, I thought Levi Clark had a lot of great at bats last weekend, and hardly anything to show for it. But then on Tuesday, he had a good first at bat, drove in a run on an RBI ground out, and his last 3 at bats looked not very good. I mean, one was a first pitch swing pop up in foul territory. I thought Chris Newstrom's been looking a whole lot better. Reese Chapman looked better in Tuesday's game. Blaine Brown looked better over the weekend. So, I mean, you can pick and choose a little bit, but as far as the approach, I don't think the approach has changed whatsoever. They give freedom to their hitters to go out there and do things. I mean, Blaine Brown had a green light on a 3-0 the first week of the season. Like, they give freedom to their hitters, but the approach is the same because the man that's been running it the entire time is just now your head coach. I mean, it hasn't changed in that regard.
And that's why I'm not worried, because you know what? That's the one constant out of all this change is the guy leading the bats is still the guy leading the bats. If in the fact that you had the change, granted, I get the pitching coach was here a year ago, but it's still a change in voice. With Frank gone, the fact that the pitching staff has been so good, and I don't worry about the bats coming around. They'll come around, and warm weather starts popping around here. I'm not worried about the bats at all.
Yeah. Another baseball question, speaking of the pitchers, with Bo Rudy not throwing this weekend, a week out from a trip to Athens, give me your arm barn trust rankings.
If you call the bullpen, it's not a tongue twister, but go ahead.
Arm barn trust rankings. He's calling it that just to be facetious because it's so silly that they don't want to call it a bullpen anymore. Anyway, Rudy threw Tuesday. We're recording this before the Wednesday midweek. Rudy threw Tuesday and looked good. He gave up a couple singles but worked his way out of it. Was dominant in the 9th inning. So that was good to see from Bo Rudy. Again, Bo Rudy was brought in here to be a big-time bullpen arm. To this point, he's not been. Again, it's small sample size. I get that. But they need him to come along. But as far as the trust rankings of the guys in the bullpen right now, I mean, Arvinson's still going to be number 1. I know he got shelled against UCLA, but hey, I got news for you. UCLA teams were really good. Arvinson's number 1. Gosh, I think I would go, maybe Brady Frederick number 2 right now, not just from what he did Tuesday, but what he did in Arlington and his last couple outings. I think Appenzeller's up there, number 3. Mark Hindy has stepped up and had some big-time performances. He could be number 4 potentially. I'm probably forgetting somebody. I know that.
Kirby.
Kirby's still there. He's just not allowed to play. And then I guess I go Rudy number 5. Again, the The bullpen's been really good, and the top couple of options in the bullpen have been really good. And if Rudy continues to come on, it's just going to add to that. They were trying to save arms against UCLA. They went with Arvidsson. Arvidsson got shelled, and then after that, the game was lost. And you just throw a couple freshmen there to get you to the finish line. But the way they mix and match things, going with Frederick on Saturday, and then Appenzeller for the 2-inning save, and then Hindi in a jam. Oh, Krenzel. I knew I forgot somebody. Krenzel's absolutely probably third or fourth in this conversation. So I gave you 6 names. Those are my top 6. And then the way they had Krenzel carry him to the finish line on Sunday, that's just some really good mix and matching. And they were leaning into some analytics there as well.
I think if you buzz Kirby's hair off, make him shave, no facial hair, and then give him number 53 instead of number 35, just saying, no one would even notice.
No one would notice. This will be fun. Rank your top 3 running jokes on Volquest. For example, the secret Volquest email. That's not a joke. Or Trey McNutt.
Food recommendations on 30A. I mean, it's not a running joke, but it's just one that never goes away.
Fights at gate 21.
Fights at gate 21. The email one's the entertaining one, because I get a lot of DMs from people who are like, "Hey, can I get on the list?" And I'm like, "Man, there's not a list." They're like, "Oh, that's not a thing." I'm like, "No, it's not a thing. There is no super secret email."
The check-ins for Trey McNutt are just hilarious, dating back to somebody blowing up on Matt Ray for writing an update when he came here and camped all those years ago.
I actually wrote that update when he talked about how he liked Tennessee, and everyone's like, "He's going to Ohio State." I'm like, "I understand that, but he did say the following things about Tennessee when he camped here, and he talked about coming back, and he never came back for another one, which it was no surprise."
Oregon. Then he went to Oregon.
Yeah, he took a trip to Oregon. So
he went to Oregon.
Is that where he ended up going? Not Ohio State?
I'm 90% sure he went to Oregon.
I don't remember. I mean, when it was at Tennessee, I moved on.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything anyway, right? As evident by my basketball response earlier.
What do you think the blind transfers window that is being reported? What do you think of that? You got it, AP?
Yeah, it's Oregon.
Okay. Yeah. What do you think of the blind transfer / window that's being reported right now, where they don't go into the portal because they can't? They just transfer to another school. Can the NCAA do anything about that? Do you think Tennessee will pick up anyone or possibly lose anyone? There's been chatter about this. I've seen multiple, articles and been quoted. I mean, I guess it was Pete Nakos wrote something, quoted a couple, Power 4 general managers and stuff. I mean, it feels like, Brent, that there's an acknowledgement and a little bit of fear about what this could be. Will it turn into anything big? I don't know. But the blind transfers essentially leaving after spring when there's not a portal window.
Well, it's going to end up in courts where it's going to end up, because the NCAA has come out and said that their counter to the blind transfer would be essentially that's a tampering deal, and you would prevent that guy from playing. You would punish the head coach. You would give scholarship punishment because someone transferred outside of a transfer window.
And is it worth it? That's the chance of it.
Yeah, I mean, here would be my thing, and this is going to sound really bad, so I probably shouldn't say it, but because coaches will always take a player, right? They'll always take someone who they think can help. But how many coaches spoke about how they did not want the spring window because they wanted their roster set by February 1st? We want our chemistry, our culture. We want everybody in place. We want to know what we have. We don't want to upset the apple cart in June to get something going. Now, nobody's going to turn away a great player, okay? That's just the reality of it. But how many coaches really want to throw somebody in June unless they just have a catastrophic need like Tennessee had last year at quarterback? How many of those situations are going to pop up now with there not being a spring portal window where somebody ups and leaves you and puts you in a bad spot? I don't know. I know the NCAA trying to curtail it's going to be hard, but because it's going to end up in court at some point if somebody wants it to be there. Now, the NCAA has had a couple of court wins, so maybe they feel better about going to court than what they were feeling a month or two ago, Eric. But, at some point that one will end up in court. I don't think there'll be this huge number of guys who just mysteriously drop out of the school that they're at and show up on another campus in the summertime. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't think there'll be a big number there of that.
I think there'll be some, because you saw it last year.
Well, you had the Lucas kid who left Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Wisconsin refused to put him in the portal. He asked to go in the portal, and Wisconsin said no. He tried to go in during a portal window. They said no, we're not letting you go. He said, I want to go to be home with my father, who is ill. And he said, if you're not going to put me in the portal, then I'm going to walk away. This is a little different scenario because it's not like you're being denied the opportunity to go in the portal. Okay, there's no portal for you to ask to go into if you didn't ask to go into that portal window in January. So we'll see. We'll see how a judge would rule that one. But somebody will test it, right, Eric?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to your point, I don't think there's going to be a lot, to be honest, but I think there will be a couple for sure, and we'll be hearing about it. Two more. Do you think any of the following players? Spring practice is not here. We don't even know where they fit in here. Do you think any of the following players average at least 5 snaps a game on defense this fall in SEC play? Christian Gass, Gass, House, and Gentle.
Gass would be the best shot.
Okay, so we'll go yes for Gass and no right now for the other two.
Well, now Carson Gentle might play offensive snaps.
Yeah.
It's true.
Could be a factor there as well.
Yeah. Last question. Has Rick Barnes had a true shooting guard, 2-guard, that could score consistently during his time at Tennessee other than Jordan Gainey? That seems to be more of a defensive player year over year.
What are we calling Chaz Lanier? I mean, to me, he's a shooting guard, so I would put Chaz Lanier in there. Don't connect. I understand played small forward, played the 3 or whatever, but again, the thing about college basketball is it's a positionless sport.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Dalton Connect was as much of a 2-guard as he was anything else. So the person, quote, playing the 2 was, more of a defensive guy because the small forward was the offensive scorer. So it's different ways there. I mean, the fact of the matter is Tennessee needs one more shooting guard. They need one more scoring guard, I should say, on this roster. That's a weakness for them. They tried to go after a couple of guys, the McNeely kid that went to Louisville, who didn't come here from Virginia, and then Gillespie's teammate at Maryland, who ended up going to USC, who wanted a sled load of money. And then Amari Abram wasn't what you thought. He's not been what you thought he would be coming out of the portal. And Ethan Berg's not been what you were hoping you would be when you took a flyer on him late. And so, it hasn't panned out where one of those guys was. I mean, they tried to go after a shooter, another guard scorer. They missed on 2, and they went with Abram. And for whatever reason, you're sitting there going, all right, they're down a player. Maybe Amari Abram gets to play some against South Carolina. I don't think he got on the court, did he? I mean, he doesn't seem to be a factor right now. So they're quote a body short there, but it wasn't a situation where they didn't go after somebody at that position in the portal.
I know he played some point for sure, but I mean, I look at Lamonte Turner as a 2. Don't you, Austin?
Yeah, I think that's what he is. Now, again, he was forced to play some point guard.
When Bone was here and they were on the court, I mean, he was the 2.
Yeah, he's the 2. I mean,
Bowden was a 3 too.
Yeah, he's had 2 guards. And again, it's positionless basketball.
And Berg, I mean, he keeps showing flashes. I mean, last night he made a big 3 in the second half. There was another point where they got a rebound. I think Akpara handed it back to him, and he was in the corner, and he was open, and he was like about to shoot it, and he was like, "No, this feels like the end of the half," even though it wasn't like the same scenario. But you could tell he was like, "No, I like staying out here. I'm gonna pass."
I mean, Rick Barnes' post-game answer to Mike Keith on the Vol Network last night about Ethan Berg told you all you needed to hear. Because Mike basically asked, did you think Ethan Berg took another step tonight? And he was like, well, we hope so. He still does a bunch of things on offense that drives me bananas because he just, but at least he didn't hop around and be all hyper out there on offense tonight. So maybe, I mean, it was very much we're going to wait and see on that deal.
But he's got more trust in him than he does Abram.
There's no question about that. That is very apparent.
Appreciate you guys sending in your questions as you do each and every single week right here at Volquest.com for the Mailbag podcast. We do every single Thursday. Constant conversation happening right now with everything going on. I mean, there's constant football chatter with spring ball happening right now, talking about what's what's in Smokies, the Powerade, Gatorade, all that type of stuff. We got baseball, softball, some news the last couple of days, Lady Vol talk. Loads and loads happening right now with basketball, of course, tournament action for both the men and the women getting going here with Tennessee concluding the regular season against Vanderbilt on Saturday. Double bye is very much in play. Everything you could possibly want to know, need, constant conversation with other Tennessee fans happening at Volquest.com and on the Journal's Quarters. For Awesome Price, Brent Hubbs, I'm Eric Kane. Appreciate you guys for joining us here on the Thursday morning Volquest Mailbag Podcast.